Is for today, everything's okay, everything's okay. Never comes again, another day like yesterday. Is for today, everything's okay, everything's okay. Hello, everybody. This is our afternoon episode about layers. This is about layers. So let me work my way into this one. And as I say occasionally here and there, I may meander a little bit because I'm actually doing the thinking and allowing it to congeal right now as I talk it through on this podcast. But sometimes I actually enjoy those podcasts more than the ones that I've sort of plotted out the points that I want to make. And the reason this came about is because I had had a conversation with some friends of ours at their child's birthday party about computer screens, phone screens, et cetera, and about kids and what it does to their brains. And we were talking through, they were talking about content, and this parent was talking about how hard they work to manage content and make sure that the content is appropriate, and was sort of talking about how their child views really educational content, which is great, right? If you're going to look at a screen. And then I felt sort of bad because being who I am, I had to sort of pop in and go, well, there are actually two layers to the concern with the internet, access to the internet, and screens. There's the content layer, which is parents put an enormous amount of focus on how do I manage. I mean, we have this situation where kids can get access to porn, kids can get access to videos of people being killed or murdered or like whatever. There's anything that happens in the world that can be recorded is available on the internet. And there's also your kids putting themselves on the internet, and then predators getting access to them and attempting to manipulate them into a bad situation. So there's this huge component of content, and that's important, but it also becomes a distraction. And the comment that I made to the parent was, well, there's the content, and then there's just the fact that it's really not good for your kid's brain to sit there and stare at a two-dimensional object with lights reflected back. It's not good for your brain. It's not good for your body. It's frankly just not good for you. And then I felt bad because, of course, I'm a therapist. I'm always looking for the deeper layer of things. And, you know, that's not my business. And maybe sometimes people don't want to hear that. But in that particular case, it's interesting, doctors and pediatricians and, you know, brain researchers, et cetera, talk a lot about the fact that excessive screen time is bad, but no one really explicates that, yeah, content is a serious issue, but you're constantly on a slippery slope, because even if you can kind of manage content, which is almost impossible, the older kids get, the more, like, if they want to access stuff, they're going to access stuff. But then there's just the fact that you shouldn't be staring at a screen all day. You shouldn't be staring at a screen for an hour in the morning. When kids wake up or before they go to bed or et cetera, like, it doesn't matter what's on the screen. I recently deleted my Facebook profile and my Instagram profile because I had trained Instagram to the point that nothing but spiritual and positive content came up. The second anything came up that was like pressing those buttons about outrage or, man, what jerks these people are because look at this video, you can't believe what this guy said, blah, blah, blah. Instantly, I'm just like, I forget how you do it, but you just go in and you say, I don't want to see this. I don't want to see this. Blog post like this, blog post like this. And it's like I was kind of proud of myself for a year because I had nothing but positive content
all the strife and the negativity and the crappy comments, well, was gone. But the truth was, I could go to bed and sit there for 45 minutes or an hour and 20 if I was really stressed out or tired, and flip through spiritual commentary and beautiful scenes and whatever, and it's still just staring at a bloody electromechanical gadget. Or the difference between that and doing some deep breathing, or imagining something beautiful, or problem solving a little, like whatever, or just going out and getting exercise. The value of going out for a bike ride or going for a hike or going, oh, I have an hour and a half, I could sprint to a neighborhood rec center and just do something, breathe some fresh air. But the value of that is so profound in comparison to whatever. It amazes me the number of people, and I was one of these people, who have convinced themselves that there is really legit, but I stay in touch with people. That's not why you do it. Stop bullshitting. That technology was constructed and is elegant and is hyper successful for one reason only. It's because it releases dopamine and endorphins by doing something that has nothing to do with adding value to your life. Not a fucking thing. So here's where this comes to, and I'll expand beyond the concept, the debate around screens, et cetera, because it goes much deeper than that. But bottom line, it's like human beings always get caught. We get caught in these situations that are addictive or self-serving or not good for us. And then we'll sit here and make a big demonstration of how well we manage that, and how, like for me, I had completely managed it. But it's a complete refusal to acknowledge it doesn't matter. The thing itself is not good. Like, go one layer down. There's nothing in it. There's no value in it. There's no value. Now, when I say that, it's like, you see the same thing in the food industry where it'll be like, everything's gluten-free, and it'll be some crap that was like, yeah, there's no gluten in that because gluten comes from wheat and not everything has wheat in it, but it can still be a pile of crap. Like, just because it says gluten-free doesn't mean anything, right? So we get caught where we operate within a certain framework that's offered to us, and we're like, I'm doing a really good job within this framework. But we have a really hard time going, wait a minute, someone handed you that framework because it serves them and it doesn't serve you. You shouldn't be dealing with that framework at all, right? So the reason I deleted my Facebook and Instagram was, and I didn't delete LinkedIn and I didn't delete Twitter, is because I never go on Twitter. It's such a cesspool and it's weird. Visually, it's weird. And I'm hyperverbal. Like, to have like little tweets is just as annoying as hell. Like, there's no attraction whatsoever for me. It's not a problem. And LinkedIn, the same thing. It's like, I don't go cruise LinkedIn to see whatever. I just use it to post professional stuff and to post this episodes of this podcast, whatever. So there's no issue there. So how many times do human beings get caught? And I'll talk through several versions of this where there are layers, and we are so hyper attached to arguing about the content of a thing, which is the first layer, the content. But underneath that layer is an entire context of a whole thing that should never be. You shouldn't engage that. So let me make my argument to you. This was the realization for me. It's like, I have two kids. One's 3, one's 6. I have a wife. I have friends I don't see enough. There are so many things to do. I would love to learn the Amharic language. I love the sound of Amharic. I just can't tell you the Ethiopian national language. I've wanted to learn it for decades and it's never happened. I'm like really shaky, kind of with Spanish. Like, I could nail Spanish down. There's so many churches I want to see, temples I want to see. There's meditations I want to do. There's people I want to meet. There's travel. I need more money to support my kid. Like there's all of this richness to life. How could I possibly have 10 minutes to look at Instagram or Facebook? It's asinine. The only reason that exists as a reality is because somebody benefits massively from it, and they figured out how to access the chemistry in your brain. They figured out how to access your psychology and to press certain buttons. Now, here's something that's really interesting and important about, we talk about dopamine dump. I heard a brain researcher say this, and it really, really resonated with me. We think about dopamine or serotonin as the feel-good neurotransmitters. Dopamine is I got a dopamine hit, blah, blah, blah. That's not really what it is. A more elegant description, and this is not mine, this was from whoever this brain researcher was, is that dopamine is the neurotransmitter that fires off when you're taking right action, purposeful action. Now, you think about millennia of evolution, what that means is, for example, I got up and I wandered my environment for a couple of days and ultimately discovered this rich field of herbs and whatever that can be harvested. And then you get this good feeling of like, wow, I did something that really helps my tribe. I took right action, but it involves so much physical and mental and emotional investment. And there's this long, slow build into a payoff. And then sometimes maybe that payoff didn't come and I have to push even further. That's our brain's relationship to dopamine. Is not something that you can just go, oh, they liked my post. Like it's literal mental masturbation. There isn't any scenario where that's healthy for you. Any more than there's any scenario where refined processed sugar is good for you. Our attraction to sugar was, wow, when you're hunting and gathering and foraging and using your body and burning through so much energy that it's difficult to get enough energy, if you find a root or a fruit that has a lot of sugar wrapped up in the fiber and you can take that in, your body wants to know, oh, you hit the mother lode, this tastes so good, boom. And then you have energy to construct a shelter or whatever. There's this much more profound relationship drawn out over a long period of time. And modern humans are nothing more than animals who are clever enough to have figured out how to game their own system to bypass these pleasure responses that were meant to deeply attach us to real life, to complex four-dimensional real life that's very difficult, often very, very, very slow, can be a slow build across years or even decades to get payoff, and that's what was normal. So at some point, dopamine and serotonin and whatever, those things only came for these tiny incremental improvements that might happen over weeks. If I decide I want to learn Amharic, it's going to be very frustrating for months. And then I'll realize, oh, I nailed down 100 words. Man, that feels good. And it'll connect me and invest me into the process again over something that could take 3 to 5 years for me to learn to speak conversational Amharic. That's how dopamine is supposed to work. That's how the feedback system is supposed to work. It's not supposed to be, oh, I got a like there. Oh, cool. Let's scroll through. Oh, that's really cool. They said something that made me feel good about myself. Oh, they said something that gave me a dump of adrenaline because they're jerks. Like, come on, guys. This is asinine. There's nothing about it. Nothing that's healthy or good. Nothing. People can make money off of it. Who cares? There are lots of shitty, silly ways that people can make money. If you do that, go ahead. I don't care. I did. I had an Instagram page. I was posting, my episodes and posting comments and, whatever. I was like, really, what are you doing? Really? If I want to build my practice or if I want people to know that I have an expertise, then do an episode. Make it 2 hours long, or go out and do a training or do a free group so that people come and I can explain to them what EMDR therapy and somatic therapy is, and I can make it free and say, hey, look, I'm just a liaison between you and this field, and there are these things available to you. If you're caught in what you think therapy was because you learned about it 20 years ago, you don't understand the advances, blah, blah, blah. And I could offer that, and I would be in a room talking to people, and that would be way more challenging and more work. But the value would be astronomically larger than even posting something and getting, 500,000 likes because a bunch of people are like, oh, I relate to what you said is really important. Come on, guys. We got to stop. This is so silly. Layers. Okay. So in that situation, we can make it about the content. But the fact is the content is a distraction from the fact that the whole thing is bullshit. And you know it is. And I know it is. Right? I let my daughter play on my phone sometimes, and I let her go. And sometimes we put Tom Thomas on, or sometimes we put Blippi on. And like, hey, I know it's not good for my kids to watch TV, but sometimes you just had it and it's a tool and there's nothing you can do. Guess what? Sometimes I let my kids eat sugar. I went to a Sidecar Donuts, this specialized donut shop that they call it donuts. But really, they're just making round cakes with a hole in it, but it's delicious. I bought half a dozen last week and gave my kids like sugary sugar, right? I'm not saying I don't do it. I'm saying we need to stop pretending, stop playing games and pretending that it isn't what it is. There isn't any scenario where processed sugar is good, ever. Ever. If you take a break from healthy life and go, screw it, man, it tastes amazing, and I want to do, okay, great, go ahead. If you are really tired and really stressed and you're like, you know what, John, shut up. I don't give a rat's ass what you say. I'm going to go on Facebook and I'm just going to like cruise and look through and make some nasty comments and get in a fight because I just feel, yeah, man, I don't care. It's not my business. Let's just stop getting distracted by the arguments about the top layer of things. Stop getting distracted about arguments about the top layer of things, right? So again, I didn't mean this to be only about screens or online content, but let's just go back and put a pin in that point. Yeah, you can argue about content, but screens itself are not healthy. They are not healthy. There's no way in which they're healthy, ever. They're not healthy. They're not good for you. It's not good for you. It's not good for me sitting here in front of this screen, watching myself talk to myself. Okay, if you do it a little bit, that's fine. But don't pretend that there's anything about it that's good for your brain or your eyes. It's not. It's not good for your brain. It's not good for your eyes. Our brain and eyes were not made to stare at something 24 inches in front of your face with these weird backlights lighting it to create a fake image, whatever. No, it's not. I'll give you another example of playing games with content or being on a slippery slope and pretending that you're fighting the good fight when we just don't have it in us to just face what's true. I had a client whose mother was concerned. The client was an introvert, and the mother was and I've heard this from multiple clients, right? The mother was commenting, well, he probably plays video games too much, but at least he's talking to his buddies and blah, blah, blah. So again, you get this thing where there's this negotiation with the thing that you should have no negotiation with, where what it really came down to is this person on a weekend could spend 8, 10, 12 hours playing video games. And mom's thing was, well, at least there's some socialization. If that's where it is, that's okay. Like whatever, there's some issues there, but let's not pretend that there's anything healthy about that. That's not okay. Like if a kid's socialization is talking to buddies in different states while playing a video game and sitting in a dark room and playing a video game for even 4 hours, don't pretend that that's anything but toxic crap for that kid. It's not healthy. You can do it. It's not my business. I'm not the boss of you. I don't care. You can eat sugar. I don't care. But let's stop lying about this stuff. Stop getting distracted by the top layer of content and not just going, okay, what's the point? There's no point in talking about it. The whole thing is not healthy. There's nothing about it that's healthy, right? So my move for me was to go, I'm deleting this shit. Who cares? Like, okay, so you're like, yeah, but what about the people? Like, there's people all around me all the time. Like, there are people to be friends with all the time. Like, there's way more beautiful connection and ways of being and content that's real humans or real animals or real things to do or trails to hike or waterfalls to, there's so much to do. How can you get caught? Well, I did too. So, right, I'm not judging or criticizing, but I'm saying this is how deeply I feel. It's like, how could we get caught in the bullshit argument that there's something to be negotiated? Don't negotiate it at all. Just like toss that shit out. Or if you do it, know that you're doing it, right? Like when I go buy a donut, if I get a sugar craze and all of a sudden for like 3 days in a row, I'm eating chocolate or having a little bit of leftover birthday cake, for a week, let's not pretend that that's anything other than toxic crap. It's fun. It feels good to your mouth and you might feel kind of sleepy and warm, but it's not good. It's not good at all. There isn't any way that sugar is good. None. Zero. Alcohol. There's no way alcohol is good. None. Zero. No. It's not good. It's a toxin. It's not good for you. That's okay. Just say it. That's okay. It's okay to just say it. We have to, and this is the thing, this is why this pisses me off, is because as a population, we've been offered these content debates and tons of advertising and tons of messages constantly drawing our attention to the surface layer of content and arguing and debating it and pitching it and blah, blah. And we get caught in that argument of, well, maybe a little bit, and but this product is better than that product. And you know what, like social media, like, no, bullshit. The whole thing is bullshit. Someone's making money off of it. And they want you caught in that layer of content. They want you debating and fighting about that layer of content. And the whole thing's bullshit. It's okay if you do it. If you decide that, you're going to make brownies and share them with you, do it. Do it. Just don't get caught in the lies. Don't get caught in someone else framing and making the content in your head about the content that they want you debating and negotiating with. Right? People who profit off of social media, which by the way is not just Zuckerberg and Elon Musk or whomever. It's the people who make hundreds of millions of dollars off of gathering data and selling your details and selling your data. All those people have a deep investment in you having a debate about how much exposure to social media or how you manage it. Or they're not even going to bother pointing out what they know for a fact, which any doctor knows for a fact, which any optometrist knows for a fact, which there's no scenario where it's good for you to stare at a screen. None. Zero. It doesn't matter what you put on the screen. Okay, put some calm meditative, it doesn't matter. Staring at a screen is not good for you. It would be better for you. Okay, if you're going to watch murder videos, snuff videos, versus a calm nature scene of a lake and all the sounds, and it's like, well, okay, yeah. Once you're in the debate, once you allow them to trap you in that layer of the content, you're absolutely right. If you're like me and you're managing the content and you're only seeing positive spiritual messages and blah, blah, that's way better than seeing snuff videos. But the problem is the argument and the debate has been framed for you, and it never occurs to you, what if I just don't fucking do it at all? It wasn't that hard. My life has changed for the better I'm like, it's nothing. There's nothing. I lost nothing by deleting Facebook and Instagram. Nothing. I lost nothing. It contributed nothing to my life. Zero. I see my friends more. I exercise more. I read more books, which, by the way, the difference between staring at a screen passively and reading, in which your brain has to construct meaning and extract meaning, and it's making its own debate with the language in the book. Not only that, it's just markings on a page, so you're decoding something. Reading is so healthy because it's an active intellectual exercise. Even if you're just reading a trashy novel, your brain has to take the language and convert it into images and build your own experiences. You initiate the experiences that you have of a book. That's why that's super healthy. Sitting and watching a show and just seeing stuff happen, do it. I watch shows sometimes. I'm not here to tell you to do it or not do it. I'm here to say that we're being gamed. Somebody is telling us where the debate is. They're framing the debate for us, and the people who are framing the debate for us are the people who make money off of it. They're not coming out and going, staring at screens is bad, period. They know it, and they're not letting their kids do it. I had no idea that this podcast was going to go this direction where I'm going to be yelling at the microphone. But that's why I have a podcast, because I can't talk this way as a therapist. It's not fair. But it kind of is my personality, and it's how I feel about the damn thing. Okay, so I said this was about layers, right? Layers. So I want to give you other examples where this is true, not just about social media or screens or whatever, where we get into trouble because we want to make our debates and our meaning about surface content. So you see this in couples work a lot. In fact, every couple who comes in to work on their relationship, there's a component of this, and almost always a very significant component of this. And I'll give you just a made-up example. If a couple comes in and they're like, well, we have this conflict and we know it's petty and it's silly. I don't know why we fight about it, but my husband leaves the cabinet doors a little bit ajar. And it's like, they're never closed. Like every time I have to go, I have to close it, latch. We're like, why? You know, getting these big fights, right? Big arguments. And they've spent years arguing about this. I promise you it's not about cabinets. What's happened is those people, it never occurred to them, or this is an old pattern, or it's something they inherited from their families of origin, or they never had a therapist go, I don't think it's about cabinets. It's going to be about control. It's going to be about a power struggle. It's going to be about feeling disregarded, right? So I'll just make up a scenario. In that scenario, what will have happened is maybe one of those people might have had a parent who was sort of sloppy and was also sort of insulting and crossed boundaries and was not clean. And so that person as a child may have had an opposite reaction and becomes, slightly fastidious and very, very organized. But it's not just that they're like, it's good to be fastidious, it's good to be organized. It's that it is a reaction against their parents' disrespect for their boundaries. So maybe the parent even like messes their room up a little bit. So they have a parent who crosses boundaries and they felt really disrespected, but unconsciously, they solved it by becoming very organized and clean and put together themselves. This is just one of the infinite number of ways that humans make, I'm not saying this is true every time, but this is one of the infinite ways that humans make meaning of things that have a surface content but the meaning is underneath the surface content. And it is why people fight about things that appear to be petty, because they're not fighting about cabinet doors, right? So that person who had that childhood comes into the marriage and they still have this unconscious feeling that if someone is sloppy in the environment, it's really disrespectful and they don't care about the other person. And so when they get offended, they think they're just mad that this person won't close the cabinet doors. But the truth is, unconsciously, they feel disrespected and they feel that the other person doesn't care about them, and it hurts their feelings and it makes them angry and it makes them feel that, and then they have this urgency and they get angry, and the other person feels like, now the other person will have had a parent who was overly fastidious and crossed boundaries by micromanaging and blah, 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 right? And so they'll marry this person. And so when this person gets angry about closing the doors, the other person is like, oh my God, they're having their emotional response of like, this is how my boundaries get crossed. And so this couple will sit here and fight about this for years, decades. They might even ruin their relationship. When the truth is, they never moved to the layer underneath, which is, hey, spouse, I probably shouldn't make such a big deal about closing cabinet doors. I certainly wouldn't want to end an important relationship with someone over cabinet doors. And yet at the same time, it somehow feels very important to me, and I feel unloved, I feel unseen, and I feel as if someone's crossing my boundaries, like I'm being violated when you don't close the doors. And I'm not saying you should do anything. I'm just saying you need to understand that that's what happens for me. And the other person could say, oh, I hear that. I get that that's happening for you. So it makes more sense to me why you would feel that way. I want to share with you that when you get a little intense about things like closing cabinet doors or whether I left my shirt on the floor or whatever, I feel really like someone's trying to control me and micromanage me. And that feels really not loving, and it feels disrespectful. And then I get really rigid, and I try to reclaim my autonomy by insisting on doing those things. And I know that makes you feel bad. Okay, now we're having a conversation about what the thing actually is. And if those two people in that couple can actually have that conversation and they actually still love one another, boom, like you're doing good couples work. Because once they can see, oh, the other person has a genuinely really good reason, it really hurts them that it happens this way. And they also understand that it really hurts me when they respond this way, right? Then we can negotiate this and go, oh, I still love and care about you. I'm going to make a much more concerted effort to be really aware of that. I'm going to do it out of love. And I need you to make a lot more space for me to be messy in some specific way and not to micromanage me, because now you understand that it really feels disrespectful to me and it hurts me. And because you love me, you don't want to do that. Oh. All the problems get solved in the layer under the content, man. All the problems get solved in the layer under the content. And this is why, there are some couples therapists, and I do the same thing myself, where sometimes we get into the content and sometimes you low-key feel like, for example, if it's a scheduling issue or a time issue, sometimes I'll just work with a couple and be like, okay, what is your schedule? Okay, husband, what is your expectation? Can we sort of compromise here? And can we just figure out logistics, since there's a third person here and you guys are not fighting the way you are? Maybe you can work with the surface content and actually find that, my wife or my husband is able to massage your schedule so that I have a little bit more time and I feel seen, and we will, problem solved. Occasionally, but I gotta tell you, it's not very often. In fact, hardly ever does working the content solve the problem. You know why? Because everybody's smart. And if it was just about content, they would have just done it themselves. They fight about it because it's not about the content. They fight about it because it's not about the surface content. It's about the meaning under the content. And you can't solve the problem until you stop allowing this to be the context where you argue and argue and argue and argue and argue and argue and argue, and you go down to what the actual meaning is, how I receive it, how I experience it, how you mean it, how you experience it, and what we could do to respect and care about one another. And if we find out that we don't respect and care one another, we can stop fighting about it and go, we're done. We need to end this relationship. Right? I'm going to give you another example of where content gets used to ignore the actual meaning, the layer under. Surface layer is always content. Under layer is always about meanings that get created by conscious beings. This is something that narcissists do. Or it can just be something that people argue even if they're not narcissistic, if they get caught in surface content. Let's say you have a narcissist who's controlling. I talk to people about this all the time because people who don't know how to deal with narcissists get caught in the content. This is what a narcissist will do, or a controlling person will do. Let's say you are, I don't know, you're a woman, you're fixing your car, you're changing the tire. And the husband comes out, or whoever comes out, your brother, whoever is like, oh my God, I can't believe that you're blah, blah, blah. You don't know how to do that at all. Look, you have to do X, Y, or Z, blah, blah. And then this woman gets really pissed and starts arguing. What will happen is she'll sit there and argue and be like, well, that is the way that I was doing it. Well, I know what I'm doing, and, you know, blah, blah, no, it's not, but I know how the bolts go, and it doesn't matter. I don't have to use that tool. This tool works for blah. Oh, you're arguing the content. Guess what? The person who's manipulating and controlling you won already. And I'm going to tell you why. That person frames this conflict around the content because it distracts from a much more important point. Do you know what the more important point is? Can you go from this layer to this layer? Please, with me, together, everyone say it together. Hey, controlling person, it's not your fucking business. It's not your business. This is a grown-ass adult changing her tire. Get bent. Go where? Go somewhere. Do something. If she does it wrong, what do you care? It's not your business. It's an adult solving their own problems, and they didn't ask for input. Certainly not controlling, pushy, judgmental, condescending input. Narcissists and controlling people are brilliant at keeping the conversation around the surface area content, because you can debate the right way to do something forever. And now you're engaged with the controlling person, and they're controlling the narrative. They're controlling the narrative. This is a problem, right? This happened to Black people in this country. White people controlled the narrative. What does that mean? What that means is, if you go, well, Black people are angry, Black people have a problem with crime, Black people have, I don't know, poor self-control, or they take drugs more, like whatever it is you're accusing. The problem is, if you allow overall white society to define the narrative, now suddenly Black people they've been put on trial in the court of public opinion, and now they're arguing and defending. No, we're not angrier than other people, and sometimes we do get angry, but we have a right to get angry. We're just normal people who get angry like everyone else does, and sometimes we get angrier, but that's because we're mistreated. But okay, it's too late. You lost, right? You lost the argument because you are now on the stand in court. Someone has put you on trial, and now you're having to argue that you are not guilty. So controlling, manipulative people do this all the time. They control the narrative. They make it about the surface level, and they say, you're a problem, and then you have to start arguing I'm not a problem. And well, we can argue that to the end of time. You can argue like, oh, you're angry, you're not angry, you're angrier than other people, you're not angry, but you can line up all kinds of evidence to both sides can cherry pick evidence, like blah, blah, blah. We can argue ad nauseum about what's true. Those arguments are never going to go away, but the controlling narcissistic person has just controlled the narrative. There were always very wise Black people and Black leaders who knew what to say, right? Malcolm X knew what the truth was, which is, I'm not on trial, you're on trial. You have leveraged enormous amounts of violence. You have enslaved a whole people. You have raped. You have murdered. You have taken children from those people and sold them to be slaves. You have no moral position to judge anybody. And he was right. I'm paraphrasing, right? But one thing I liked about Malcolm X is he was just very, white people call him racist. He was not racist at all. Like, I don't think he ever said a racist thing. I could be wrong, but I don't think he ever used a racist epithet. Nothing. He was just like, I'm not interested in the conversation. You're the aggressor. You're the violent one. You're the enslaver. You're the murderer. You're the raper. I'm not having a conversation with you. I'm not interested. He went to the layer under. He went to the layer under. He did not allow them to frame the conversation around who and what and how Black people are. He was like, you have already shown me who you are, and I indict you. I accuse you. I am putting you on trial. Well, he was right. Right? He was correct. So narcissists do this. Right? And this happens in couples work where it's like, oh, this the surface layer, we're just going to argue and argue and argue. I gave an example of a woman changing her tire. I'll switch genders and do a different example. Let's say there's a husband and he buys clothes or whatever, and his wife is like, oh my God, I can't believe you bought those. You don't have any taste in clothing. You should have let me choose them. You can't go to work in that, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so what's the natural response? To argue the content. What are you talking about? These actually look really nice. I have colleagues who wear this kind of stuff. How would you know? Blah, blah, blah. But it's too late. It's too late. It's too late. If you argued the content, you just accepted that you are on trial. If you argued the content, you just accepted that you are on trial. Move to the layer underneath. What is the appropriate response of that husband to that controlling wife? It's not your fucking business. I didn't ask you. If you are so obsessed with me and what I wear, and you as an autonomous adult think you need to micromanage me as an autonomous adult, then you need to go be on meds, you need to go to therapy, whatever the hell you need to do to handle it, it's your problem. This is not even open for discussion. I don't discuss my adult decisions with another adult. Now, if you were very respectful, right? So let's massage it a little bit. Let's say I have a buddy who invites me to a business dinner, and I show up in tennis shoes, jeans, and a t-shirt with a heavy metal band on it, whatever. And he's like, hey, dude, like, I don't mean to get in your business. By the way, people who are not controlling always start by letting you know, I acknowledge your autonomy and your right to make your own choices. I acknowledge that I'm kind of crossing a boundary. Will you allow me to help you? People who are not controlling or narcissistic, or people who are not trying to control the narrative and trap you in the surface layer, always start with, hey, I apologize. I don't want to get in your business, or hey, it might not be, like, whatever. They're always letting you know, I know it's not my business. And if you disagree with me, I'm going to shut up. It's not my business. right? So you might have a buddy who's like, hey, like, I probably didn't give you enough information. This is actually fairly formal. Can I loan you just a button-down shirt? You might feel uncomfortable. Now, what if his buddy's like, dude, I don't care. Okay, cool. It's not my business. You can offer information. This doesn't mean that you can't help people, but you always know when that help is codependent, controlling, way overly invested with a personal agenda, when the feedback or the advice is immediately offered in a judgmental or critical way that is entirely focused on you're doing it wrong and I'm telling you how to do it right. Now, here's where this gets really important. Sometimes those people are right. My father with me was incredibly controlling and judgmental and critical of me when I was younger. And he's a smart guy who really pursued many things in life and knew how to do many things. And there were going to be many times that he was right. And I used to accuse myself, like, I didn't learn a lot from him because I always instinctively resisted everything because it was always coming from this very controlling place. That it was always like, not good enough, not good enough, you should have. Well, if I would have done it, blah, blah, that message was always there. But there was lots of things that he was right about. Here's what's important. It doesn't matter whether they're right. Because what they're doing on the more important underlying layer is they are taking over your autonomy and they're sending you the message that you shouldn't be doing this stuff. You screwed up. You should listen to me. So it's about control and it's about placing themselves in a superior position. If they do not approach you as an equal, with respect for your autonomy, with respect for your right to do it wrong. Because it's more important that you develop your autonomy and you develop your reality testing and you learn from the results that you get from your own unadulterated intentions. That's way more important than doing it right because someone told you how to do it right. All that does is weaken you. All you did was use their reality testing. Now, it's okay to get advice, but you still have to get ownership of it and go, oh, I think that this person's pretty smart and what they said resonated with me. And when I think it through, it sounds like a good advice. I'm going to actually choose to do that, but you're still reality testing. And it's still your choice to listen to their advice. Never put yourself in the position where it's like, well, I don't really know. And they said I should do that. So I should blah, blah, blah. Now you're screwed. It doesn't matter whether you're right or wrong, whether it ends up being right or wrong. You've destroyed the most important thing you can do, which is to go to the lower layer and begin working on your autonomy and your reality testing. Do I know how to engage tasks, receive the information that comes back from reality of this is successful, this is good, this contributes, this aligns with me, this doesn't align with me, so even though it's good, it's going to tear me down and wear me down, whatever. Because there are lots of cases where people suggest things that are good for somebody, but it's not good for you. I bet it's really good for somebody to be a mathematician. Not good for me. It's not my thing. For me, it's really, really good to be a therapist, to be involved in philosophy and existential conversations and therapy and EMDR, blah, blah. It's really good for me. There'd be a lot of people who would hate that job. This is why it's so dangerous to ever allow anyone to trap you in the content layer with everything. The only time that should happen is when a fireman comes raging into the theater and is like, fire, fire, get out of the theater now. We have to evacuate. Okay, don't ask questions. You should probably just do that. If a police officer says, sir, we have a bomb threat, we need you to move out of this, area immediately. Okay, yeah, you should probably do that. You've got common sense. You can make those choices. But almost all the rest of it. All the rest of it. People try to trap you in content arguments. And the reason they do it is because the people who benefit from that content argument being the frame, there are people who are making money from the whole GD thing. Right? It's like when social media companies or apps institute these things where it's like, well, we're going to put a timer on it and you can use this to block your show, blah, blah. Yeah, of course, they're engaging this idea of safety because they don't want anybody going, it's just not good for you, period, ever. It's not good for you to stare at a screen. Go ahead and do it if you want, but it's not good for you. There's nothing to negotiate. It's not good for you. Not to mention the fact that every minute you spend there, there's so much more value and beauty and complexity and so many other things to do with your life. But they trap you in this debate about, well, everybody's on social. Well, you know what? It's a super powerful tool and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, people make a lot of money off of it because we got trapped in the conversation. We got trapped in that layer of content, right? So this episode was called Layers. 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 Everything has this really surface layer in which there's right and there's wrongs and there's good outcomes and bad outcomes and yeah, blah, blah, you should have and you shouldn't have. And there's all this judgment and shame. But well, some people are really smart and they know how to do this. Some people don't know how to do blah, blah. Underneath all that bullshit, the next layer that really matters is, what does it mean for me? Am I getting a chance to act as an autonomous, conscious being and make choices for myself and then receive the feedback from reality about those choices? Or am I allowing someone to control the debate in the content and trap it there and then tell me I'm wrong? Because in the end, their agenda is to have control or to feel better or to feel superior, or it's just ego and maybe they're right. It doesn't make a goddamn bit of difference whether they're right or not. It's even more dangerous if they're right. People who understand that the most important part is the layer under, in which you are an autonomous, free-willed, choosing human being who needs to reality test and learn how to operate within this reality in a way that's healthy for you, who you are as an individual expression of consciousness in this 4-dimension, whatever it is. People who understand that that is the most important thing about you, if they want to give you advice, will always start with, please tell me if I'm crossing a boundary. I notice you're doing this. There's this other way that you can do it that might be better. Just want to help. And then if you're not interested, then just back out. That's it. That's it. Or they'll say, hey, I don't want to offend you, or would it be okay if I offered you a solution? Or what they always frame it immediately on the lower level and then very gently offer possible content ideas, right? So many things. I could do this podcast for days and just come up with example after example after example after example after example in couples work, in social media, in government, in medicine, in food. Right? Everybody knows at this point that the sugar industry gamed the FDA, paid somebody off of it, gamed the whole population to convince Americans that our obesity problem was directly causally related to fat, and it isn't. It's related to simple carbs and sugar. And I still go into the grocery store and you try to buy some yogurt and everything's like non-fat, low-fat, non-fat. Guys, stop. Healthy milk fats do not make you fat. The donuts make you fat. The bread makes you fat. Sitting in an office, like there are all of these screamingly obvious causes of our issues, But the people who make money off of us are always gaming the narrative to frame the debate and the argument, right? Oh, well, you should probably eat less fat and we should need non-fat and blah, blah, blah. Okay, suddenly you're engaged in this narrative and it was never fat in the first place. And the sugar industry benefited. And they sell us one of the most addictive substances on the face of the planet. Sugar. And we allow the narrative to be controlled. And we go, okay, so the move that you have to make every time someone argues something that's right or wrong, or you should or you shouldn't, is immediately ask yourself, what's the layer under it? How is this being framed? This has a frame around it. Oh, they're making obesity only about the intake of fat. Well, guess what? It's not. It's about carbs. Okay? The argument around social media and what's presented and is it safe or not, blah, blah, blah. They're making it about the content. What is it really about? What it's really about is you shouldn't have the kind of life where your kid's sitting there for 4 hours on a freaking iPad. The problem is the whole life circumstance. The problem is not having parks to go to, or not going to them, or not having a culture in your family of going on walks or going for a jog with mom and dad, or having a conversation over dinner or cooking together. Well, all of these other things. The problem is not that you don't manage the content of iPads right. The problem is that you think it's okay to use an iPad. I mean, go ahead. Again, I still do sometimes let my kids watch YouTube videos if I choose them. Yeah. The meat industry, the industrial meat industry is genius at this. Our meat is this, our meat is that, our meat, blah, blah, blah. Process this way, process that way. There is no reality on the face of the planet in which mass industrialized production of meat is anything other than torture of animals, is just a shite thing to do. And the meat's not healthy either. There's no way for you to go shop and buy meat in a Ralph's or anybody else. I don't mean to disparage any particular place. It's not good. It's not ever going to be good. There's nothing you can do to make it good. If you find a local farm and you go out to that farmer and you're like, hey, how often do you slaughter and blah, blah. Or if you find some company that ships directly from you like wild elk and they hunt it and they ship it directly to you. Yeah, there are things that you can do. But the big meat industry controls the narrative that within this model, we're going to do these things to make product that's healthy. Nope, ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen ever. There's no way to do that. There's no way to do that. But they control the narrative. I'll give you one more. I have incoming. Man, but I could go off on this. Give you one more. Here's another one. Coming into election season. The most brilliant and obvious and raging example of this is the Republican and Democrat Party of the United States government. And they have framed, over the past 30 or 40 years, they've framed the debate as in one party's for social programs and blah, blah, and the other party's for like strong military and low crime and blah, blah. And because there are certain people who think that way and there are certain people who think this way, and they're lying. Every single one of them in either party is about power and money. They're about power over you, and they're about money that they can get from you, and they don't give a rat's ass which party they're from. They just say the things that you need to hear to get your vote. They are all powerful. They are all extremely wealthy. They all broker. They all make deals with the military. They all make deals with huge, huge corporations and industry. They're all immensely wealthy. None of them lives off of the money that they make in their salaries, even though they keep voting themselves increases. They all get the top level health coverage for their kids while debating whether you should have it. And you're caught in the content. Oh, but it's about, blah, blah. Well, it's about abortion. It's about, well, yeah, those things are important. Content can be important, but they don't give a rat's ass. They don't care because they do everything that they need to do for their families to be healthy and happy and safe. And all they need to do is come up with a narrative that appeals to whatever the larger group of people are, that they can get the more votes, and then they get into power, and then they can use that power and they can extract more money. End of story. You've been caught in the content for decades. Go one layer down. What's it about? It's about power and money. And either side of the aisle has way more in relationship to the other side of the aisle than they will ever have with you. And you keep buying it. Layers. Content layer, get caught in it. You're done. Because whoever framed the content controls you. Go underneath that. What does it mean? Who am I? What's my actual intention? What is actually being done? Why is this being framed this way? Who's profiting from this being framed this way? Who benefits from it? How do I benefit? How do I make sure that I get healthy food for my kids and that I have healthy experiences for my children, for me and my family? In a world absolutely dominated by content since the internet, dominated by content, you have been sold the lie that you can engage that content and have any autonomy in your life. And you can't, because that content is always framed for the massive benefit of power and extreme wealth for the people who framed it in the first place. And you will never escape that if you think that you can play in that arena. Any of it, the political arena, the social media arena, the internet arena, the food arena, the big corporation, any of it, it's already been framed, and you get in, you start arguing about it and deciding who you are within the frame, you're done. You're already done. It's just a narcissistic system playing you because you've been put on trial, and now you're having to defend yourself and defend your family and defend your health and defend everything else in a system that was never made for you. Layers. The content layer is where you get lied to and where you get distracted and you get trapped. Go one layer under that. Is it possible that there's an entirely different context? Why is that framed that way? How would it need to be framed to serve me and my family and my community? How would it need to be framed to serve love, compassion, kindness? How would it need to be framed to build a better car, a better housing system? How would it need to be framed to help people who are unhoused? Nobody's asking these questions because those people don't make any money off of it, unless they're siphoning tax dollars off and absorbing them and then saying they're doing something and not doing anything about it. You need to go to the layer under. You and I need to go to the layer under and say, what is the meaning that's being created? Why is it being created? What is the meaning that I want to create? And what do I need to do in my own little sphere? I'm not a politician. I'm not the president. I'm not a multinational corporation. I don't have that power, but I have the power within me and my family and my community to frame it in the way that serves me and my family and my community. Layers. There's the content. Go one layer down. Good incoming. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you next time. Take care.
Just for today, everything's okay, everything's okay.